Booker corners Patel in an explosive FBI meltdown, and the moment it happened, the entire room shifted. You could feel it. One senator calmly laying out a question so simple that anyone watching assumed an answer would come in seconds, but Patel froze. Not because he didn't hear it, not because he didn't understand it, but because answering it would open a door he spent the entire hearing trying to keep shut. And the longer he avoided it, the more obvious it became that something deeper was unfolding. Something lawmakers had been hinting at for months, but had never been able to expose this directly, this publicly, and this dramatically. The first 30 seconds of that exchange didn't just grab attention.
Homeland Security Task Force issues, correct?
I frequently talk to Mr. Miller about Homeland Security Task Forces.
Has Stephen Miller ever given you his opinions on how to run your agency?
Mr. Miller's interagency operations are invaluable to the FBI. That's what we talk about.
So you frequently discuss your job and your responsibilities with Stephen Miller and Pam Bondi, I imagine, as well.
Absolutely. She's the Attorney General.
Understood. Okay. Donald Trump promised to make us all safer. You have pushed out senior FBI agents with decades of knowledge and experience. In fact, this is the first time in FBI history that neither the director nor the deputy director have any experience with the FBI. You've shifted the agency's priorities primarily to pursuing Donald Trump's immigration enforcement agenda. According to ICE data, the Cato Institute, which is a conservative think tank, found that 20% of all agents have been diverted from their work to assist ICE immigration enforcement. 20%. Part of this operation is the work of masked law enforcement who jump out of cars, snatch people off streets at churches, schools, and their jobs and hospitals. Have there been any FBI agents who investigate crimes against children that have been assigned to immigration enforcement, yes or no?
The premise of what you say is entirely false.
Have there been any FBI agents who investigate
no.
foreign domestic terrorism?
You don't get to say America is not safer under this leadership.
I am not saying
America
that.
is safer because of the work of the FBI.
You're making a presumption of premise.
4,700 children.
Sir,
we have seized 6,000 weapons and 23,000 violent felons have been arrested.
FBI agents who investigate human trafficking have been reassigned to immigration enforcement. You are not denying that FBI agents who are on the task force that fight against Russian oligarchs have not been reassigned. Public Corrections Squad, reassigned. People who defend children, reassigned. You're not denying that. I've seen you time and time again attack my colleagues' premises of questions as a way to not answer the question. So let me end with this. I believe you have made our country weaker and less safe. I believe that we are more vulnerable to a major event, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. You've gutted the Bureau of Institutional Knowledge and Expertise. You fired or pushed out seasoned FBI officials, many with more than 20 years of experience, and were working on cases that were critical. You've been purging thousands of serious law enforcement officials who spent their careers keeping us safe, only to lower hiring standards in order to find anyone to replace them. And shockingly, you admitted in this hearing to Senator Coons that it would take 14 years to fill the vacancies at your agency. Many are the result of your purge. 20% of FBI agents are doing low-level immigration enforcement instead of their mission-critical work. You've disbanded entire task forces that stop election interference, foreign influence, public corruption. And who benefits from this? Well, corrupt people benefit from it. Criminals benefit from it. Vladimir Putin benefits from it. And it really makes me wonder who you're looking out for. It makes me think we can't trust you as a nation. You swear to release the Epstein files, but now you're withholding the Epstein files. You claim that you have a suspect in a serious assassination. Whoops, then you don't have a suspect. You know nothing about plans to remove FBI agents, yet you're directly involved in those plans. In the words of an ex-FBI official, you are overseeing, and I quote, generational destruction of the nation's premier law enforcement agency. Mr. Patel, in just 8 months, you have assaulted the institutional integrity of the FBI. But I know FBI field agents. I've worked with them in Newark. No matter how truly bad you are, you can't undermine the legacy of agents who fight every day to keep us safe, but you can tarnish the integrity of the agency and undermine the agency's capacity. I believe you're failing as a leader, and that your failure does have serious implications for the safety and security of Americans and our families. We're more vulnerable to domestic and foreign attack because of your failures of leadership. I don't think you're fit to hand the Bureau. But here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing. Because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose. This may be the last time I have a hearing with you because I don't think you're long for your job. But I'm going to tell you this. I pray for you. I pray for you that you can step up and defend your oath, defend the Constitution, and do a much better job of defending this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to say anything?
Yes, sir. That rant of false information does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If you want to talk about
dividing this country,
it is my time.
I follow you on your social media posts that tears this country apart.
To address your falsehoods.
Oh, you can try all you want
in this country.
to not take responsibility for what you have said. Sir, you're making a mockery of this committee. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over. The people of New Jersey tell me what my time is. You can't lecture me.
You can tell me my time's over.
You may be the charge of the
I'm not going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you,
Mr. Chairman.
Not afraid of you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Senator Booker, I announced at the beginning of this meeting that this back and forth talking over each other doesn't work. And I said if that happened, I asked Patel not to respond, and I was going to give him some time after the senator's time was up to respond. And he has the privilege to do that uninterrupted.
Mr. Chairman, one point of order.
Go ahead, Mr.
I've
Patel.
watched him talk over us, and you've never once criticized him for us not even being able to get our questions out.
Well,
he has been rude and disrespectful to senator after senator.
And when the senators were not giving him a chance to answer, I didn't stop the senator either. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If the FBI, under my 7-month leadership, were failing this administration in this country, why do we have 23,000 violent felons arrested this year alone? A double increase from that time last.
They detonated it. Booker asked whether Patel had told a grand jury that certain documents were declassified. A yes or no. Straightforward. Narrow. Direct. The kind of question an experienced official answers without hesitation. But Patel didn't. He spun. He sidestepped. He questioned the premise. He questioned the context. He questioned everything except the one thing Booker had actually asked, and that's when the hearing transformed. What looked at first like routine oversight snapped into something far more intense. A confrontation about credibility, integrity, and the future direction of the FBI. Booker wasn't raising his voice. He wasn't grandstanding. It was the steadiness in his tone that made the room tense. You could hear it. A man who'd given chances, waited for transparency, and finally reached a line that couldn't be stepped around anymore. Booker repeated the question. Patel repeated nothing. And after the second evasion, the third, the fourth, Booker leaned in with a realization that sliced through the entire hearing. How do you even know what was asked in the grand jury if you weren't there? A single sentence that cracked the wall Patel had been building since the hearing began. A sentence that revealed something nobody expected him to say out loud. But that wasn't the moment everything fell apart. That came next. Booker shifted the conversation to a topic that Patel had tried to bury behind layers of procedural language. Pre-confirmation conversations about removing FBI officials. This wasn't speculation. These weren't rumors. This was drawn from Patel's own previous statements. Statements that didn't line up with the ones he was giving now. Booker asked whether Patel discussed removing personnel before assuming the role. Patel said no. Booker pressed again. Patel clarified. And suddenly no became, I had numerous discussions involving the type of people that would be employed. That tiny adjustment said everything. Because this wasn't a policy conversation. This was about whether the independence of the FBI had been compromised before Patel even walked into the building. Booker wasn't guessing. He wasn't speculating. He was matching Patel's own language against his own testimony. And the more Patel tried to soften, reinterpret, or reshape what happened, the more tangled the narrative became. Booker asked whether failing to meet the mark meant failing to show political loyalty. Patel denied it. But denial without explanation isn't an answer, it's a fog. And every time Patel refused to clarify, the fog thickened. But then Booker pulled out what changed the temperature of the entire room, that he referenced a lawsuit filed by former FBI officials, career agents, decorated, long-serving, who claimed they were removed or pushed out for not demonstrating what was described as sufficient political loyalty. Booker focused on one of them, Brian Driscoll. 20 years of service, Medal of Valor, Shield of Bravery Awards, a figure respected across the Bureau. And yet, under Patel's leadership, Driscoll was terminated through a letter that cited constitutional authority normally reserved for someone else entirely. Booker didn't accuse. He didn't dramatize. He simply stated, "This letter exists. This firing occurred. This explanation was given." And the legal basis didn't match the role Patel held. Patel refused to discuss the case. But the refusal didn't protect him from the weight of the story. Booker pushed forward with the next question. Did Patel speak with political advisors, including Stephen Miller, about removing Driscoll? Patel said he didn't recall. Booker asked how often the two spoke. Patel admitted they spoke frequently. Now the contradictions weren't just visible. They were undeniable. And if the hearing had ended right there, it already would have been explosive. But the most devastating part of Booker's case wasn't any single firing. It was the pattern he outlined next, a systematic dismantling of the FBI's institutional knowledge. Booker laid out the numbers. Entire task forces disbanded. Senior officials removed or replaced. Agents diverted from anti-corruption work, from foreign influence investigations, from child exploitation cases, all redirected toward immigration enforcement priorities. Claims suggested that roughly 1/5 of agents had been reassigned away from their core mission. Booker described it not as a shift in strategy, but as a collapse of the Bureau's mission under Patel. Each example built on the last, painting a picture of an agency pulled away from the threats it was designed to confront and pushed into areas that served political objectives rather than national security needs. And every time Booker asked Patel whether agents assigned to critical missions had been redirected, Patel avoided the answer. He attacked the premise. He questioned the framing. But what he did not do, what he absolutely would not do, was deny the redirection itself. That silence mattered. In hearings like these, what isn't said carries the same weight as what is. By this point, Booker's voice wasn't angry. It was something heavier, disappointed, alarmed, tired of evasions, tired of careful half-answers, tired of watching an institution meant to stand above politics pulled deeper into it. And then he delivered the line that broke through Patel's defenses more sharply than any question could. "I believe you have made our country weaker and less safe." There was no theatrical pause, no flourish, just a man who had run out of patience for spin. Booker detailed the consequences: weakened intelligence operations, crippled public corruption investigations, foreign adversaries benefiting from the loss of expertise. He warned of vulnerabilities. He warned of gaps. Not as political talking points, but as national security risks. He painted a portrait of an FBI unable to protect the country the way it once had, not because the agents lacked talent or commitment, but because the leadership had removed the very people who held the institutional memory necessary to respond quickly, effectively, and independently. And then came the prediction that stunned the room. Booker told Patel directly that he didn't believe he would be in the job much longer. Not as a threat, not as a partisan attack, but as a statement of reality based on what Booker described as a pattern of dishonesty and mismanagement. He said Patel's loyalty to political figures would not be returned. He said those same figures would cut him loose when convenient. It wasn't delivered with triumph. It was delivered with sadness. Then Booker did something unexpected. He said he prayed for Patel, for clarity, for integrity, for the courage to honor the oath he took. And as he finished, it wasn't outrage that filled the room, but a heavy, unsettled quiet. A moment where the gravity of everything said finally landed. But if you thought that would end the confrontation, it didn't. Grassley stepped in, frustrated by the mounting tension. He tried to restore control, reminding everyone that interruptions and crosstalk weren't allowed. But the hearing had already crossed the point of no return. The dam had broken, and the political decorum meant to keep hearings orderly couldn't put the pieces back together again. Patel seized the moment to respond. And he didn't come back with clarification, apology, or context. He came back with numbers: massive arrest totals, drug seizures, trafficking victims located, weapons removed, gangs dismantled. He delivered the metrics with force, trying to turn the narrative back toward competence and strength. But here's the thing: numbers don't erase contradictions. Data doesn't counter claims about institutional damage. Arrest statistics don't answer whether agents were purged. And huge operational results, while impressive, don't automatically disprove allegations of political influence over resource allocation. Patel's response sounded more like a press release than an explanation. And instead of stabilizing his position, it highlighted the very problem Booker had raised: the difference between surface-level performance metrics and the deeper structural health of the institution. Because yes, crimes were still being investigated. Arrests were still being made. Dangerous individuals were still being taken off the streets. But Booker's warning wasn't about what the FBI was doing today. It was about what the FBI might no longer be able to do tomorrow. That's why analysts are still dissecting this moment. Not because it was dramatic, though it was. Not because it was tense, though it absolutely was. But because it offered a rare look inside a conflict that had been building for months. A struggle over whether the FBI would remain an independent institution or be reshaped by political forces that saw it not as a guardian of national security, but as an instrument of loyalty. What made this hearing so explosive wasn't the yelling. It wasn't the accusations. It was the fact that the mask finally slipped in public view. That evasions were confronted with facts. That denials ran into documentation. That the fragile boundary between political power and federal law enforcement was exposed so openly that even senators used words like crisis, weakening, and danger. And that's why this moment matters. It wasn't a clash of personalities. It was a clash of principles. A confrontation over whether truth can survive inside institutions under pressure. A warning about what happens when loyalty becomes more important than expertise, and when oversight becomes the last remaining safeguard between independence and influence. If you're watching this, you already understand how important transparency is. These hearings aren't just political theater. They're the only windows we have into decisions that affect national security, public trust, and the future of democratic institutions. Moments like this remind us how quickly systems can weaken and how necessary it is for the public to pay attention. So stay aware. Stay critical. And if you want more deep dive breakdowns of hearings, confrontations, and the stories unfolding behind the headlines, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next. Because sometimes the truth isn't hidden, it's spoken right into a microphone. You just have to be listening.